Okay, so there is a mandatory deadline looming for tens of thousands of businesses all around the world. And listen, this is not just some simple software update. We're talking about a complete platform transformation. The year is 2027, the system is SAP S/4HANA, and believe me, the cost of being unprepared is absolutely staggering. So let's break down what this really means for you.
This isn't some far-off concern anymore. It's right around the corner, and it's a business-critical event. So the real question for every IT director, every project manager out there is simple, but it's crucial. Is your team, is your workforce truly ready for what's coming? All right, first things first, let's get grounded in the facts. You're probably asking, what exactly is this deadline, and why is it causing such a stir in the enterprise world?
So here's the deal. On December 31st, 2027, SAP is officially pulling the plug on mainstream maintenance for its core ECC platform. Now, for the roughly 40,000 customers still using it, this means no more security patches, no more compliance updates, and zero technical support. The most important thing to get here is this migration isn't optional. It's mandatory for any business that wants to run a secure, supported enterprise system.
And you have to understand this is not just a version update. We are talking about a complete platform transformation. I mean, look at this. It shows the huge contrast. We're going from the old database to SAP's in-memory HANA, and the user interface is shifting from that classic SAP look to the modern, tile-based Fury UX. This means totally new data models, embedded analytics, brand new capabilities. It's a whole new world.
Now you can imagine a change this massive comes with some pretty enormous risks. Let's take a closer look at what's really at stake if you go into this unprepared. Let's start with the money. General research shows a staggering 70% of ERP implementations go over budget. And that's just the baseline, before we even get into the specifics of this migration. And it doesn't stop there. On top of the budget issues, more than half of these projects, 53% to be exact, take way longer than anyone planned for. It turns out delays are pretty much the norm, not the exception. So what does a delay actually cost? Well, for a mid-sized company, every single month of delay costs an average of $250,000. That's in consultant fees, system redundancy, lost opportunities. The meter is always running. But the financial burn isn't the only problem. Think about this. When untrained users are just dropped into a brand new system, business processes can grind to a halt. We're talking an immediate productivity drop of 30 to 40% in those first few months. That's a direct hit to your day-to-day operations. So what's the real culprit behind all these failures? It's fascinating, really. It's not the technology that's the biggest weak spot. Nope, it's the human factor. As you can see right here, the single largest cause of ERP project failure is inadequate user training and poor change management. It all comes down to people. So if people are the biggest risk, that means they're also the biggest opportunity. And this is where we pivot from the problem to the solution, what I call the readiness advantage. And hey, this isn't just a theory. You don't have to take my word for it. A recent study from Deloitte found that companies that invested in really comprehensive training before the migration went live, well, they completed their projects 35% faster. That is a massive, measurable advantage. And here's where you see the immediate payoff. Just look at the difference in time to baseline productivity. A trained team, they get back to full speed in about 2 weeks. An untrained team, they struggle for nearly 3 months. That's an entire business quarter of inefficiency you can completely, totally avoid. So what does smart strategic training actually look like for a shift this big? It's way more than just a few PowerPoints and a webinar. It's a complete blueprint for success. A successful program really works on 3 different levels. First, your IT staff. They need deep technical proficiency in the new architecture. Second, your end users need functional expertise in their redesigned daily processes. And third, and this is the one people often forget, your project leads need change leadership skills to guide everyone through it all. And the content has to be specific. I mean, generic training just fails, because S/4HANA fundamentally changes how work gets done. Users need hands-on practice with the new Fiori interface. Your finance teams have to master the new Universal Journal, which is a whole new way of getting real-time reporting. Your supply chain planners need to understand advanced available to promise. These aren't just new features. They're entirely new ways of thinking. And here's a critical point. One-size-fits-all training is a recipe for disaster. Success demands customized, role-based learning paths. What your finance team needs to know is completely different from what your supply chain team or your IT admins need. The training has to be hyper-relevant to their specific jobs and the new processes they'll be using every single day. And this is so important. This cannot just be theory. Effective programs get users out of the classroom and into sandbox environments. Perfect replicas of the new system where they can practice, make mistakes, and build confidence with realistic data. This builds that muscle memory, so when you go live, their actions are just second nature. But does this approach actually work in the real world? Come on, let's look at the proof and then we'll map out your path forward. Let's look at a real-world example. A Fortune 500 manufacturer, they allocated just 2.1% of their total migration budget to a really comprehensive 14-month training initiative that started well before the go-live date. And the results? Oh, they were absolutely spectacular. The migration finished 3 months ahead of schedule and 15% under budget. They had zero unplanned downtime during the cutover. And their users? They were back to full productivity in just 2 weeks, exactly like the data predicted. This just proves that workforce readiness training isn't some expense line item to be cut when things get tight. It is a force multiplier for the entire project. It's the single best investment you can make to guarantee your migration is a success. So where do you begin? Here's your roadmap. Start now by assessing the skill gaps in your organization. Then design those role-based learning programs to fill those gaps. Launch a pilot with your best people, your super users, then scale it across the company, all while continuously measuring your progress. Look, the deadline is set in stone. The migration is not a choice. The data is crystal clear on what separates success from failure. So the only question that remains for you and your organization is this: will you be ready?